Diamond-encrusted Beretta 92F. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman owned a Beretta 92F that most people would mistake for jewelry. The frame was gold-plated, covered in diamond inlays that sparkled under any light. This wasn't some novelty piece either. The Beretta 92F fires 9mm parabellum rounds, holding 15 in the magazine plus 1 in the chamber. The barrel measures 4.9 inches and the whole gun stretches 8.5 inches overall. It weighs 34 ounces, making it a substantial piece even before you add all those diamonds. The effective range sits around 50 meters, and each round sends a 124-grain full metal jacket bullet downrange at roughly 1,200 feet per second. Authorities seized this beauty during a raid on one of El Chapo's Sinaloa safehouses. Seizure details vary, but it was found in a safe house prior to his 2016 final arrest, presented in his 2018-2019 trial. The gun was part of his personal arsenal, kept for protection in his hideouts when things got dicey. Today it sits in the DEA museum as a symbol of excess, a stark contrast to the brutal violence that funded its creation. The museum displays it as evidence of how drug money corrupts everything it touches, turning even weapons into gaudy trophies. Gold-plated AK-47. Ramiro Pozos Gonzalez took a different approach to customization. He wanted an AK-47 that screamed power from across the room. The receiver, trigger, sights, and magazine all received gold coating. Engravings covered the metal surfaces. The platform underneath all that gold was a standard AK chambered in 7.62 by 39mm. The barrel length came in at 16.3 inches, with the overall length measuring 34.3 inches. Without the stock, it weighed 7.7 pounds. The magazine held 30 rounds of ammunition, each cartridge pushing a 123-grain full metal jacket bullet at approximately 2,350 feet per second. The effective range extends to 350 meters, though Pozos clearly designed his for hip firing at much closer distances. Mexico City police seized this weapon during Pozos' 2012 arrest. He was mid-operation when they closed in, and the gun showed signs of actual use. Corrosion from humid environments marked the metal where the gold plating had worn through. This wasn't a safe queen. He carried it, fired it, and relied on it during cartel resistance operations. The estimated value sits somewhere north of $200,000. A standard AK-47 variant today runs between $800 and $1,000, which puts the customization cost in perspective. Custom Colt 1911 with ACF initials. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, known as the Lord of the Skies, carried a Colt 1911 that told everyone exactly who owned it. The grip featured engravings, including his initials ACF and an eagle motif. This gun represented more than personal protection. It symbolized his position in the cartel hierarchy. The Colt 1911 platform has existed for over a century for good reason. Carrillo's version chambered the 38 Super cartridge, which fires a 130-grain full metal jacket bullet at 1,300 feet per second. The barrel measures 5 inches, the overall length hits 8.5 inches, and the loaded weight comes in at 36 ounces. The magazine holds 9 rounds plus 1 in the chamber. The effective range reaches 50 meters, perfect for the close-range work that cartel operations demanded. Here's where this gun story gets interesting. It was seized from Carrillo-associated assets in raids during the 1990s. Carrillo had likely gifted it to Guzman during alliance talks between their organizations. The gun now sits in Mexico's Museo del Innervante, displayed as evidence of intercartel bonds that were often as strong as blood ties. Current estimates place its value around $50,000, while a standard replica runs $900 to $1,200. Gold-plated Browning High Power. Alfredo Beltran Leyva owned a Browning High Power that mixed religion with violence. The gold-plated pistol featured engravings across its surface and mother-of-pearl grips. What made it unique was the Virgin of Guadalupe image worked into the grip panels. This religious iconography appears frequently in cartel culture, where criminals seek protection from the same saints they learned about in childhood. The Browning High Power fires 9mm parabellum from a 13-round magazine plus 1 chambered. The barrel measures 4.7 inches, overall length hits 7.75 inches, and the gun weighs 32 ounces. Each round pushes a 124-grain full metal jacket bullet at 1,150 feet per second out to an effective range of 50 meters. Cuernavaca authorities seized this piece during Beltran Leyva's 2008 arrest, right in the middle of brutal turf battles between his organization and rival cartels. The Virgin of Guadalupe imagery represents a fascinating psychological disconnect. These men commit horrific acts of violence while simultaneously seeking divine protection through religious symbols. The estimated value exceeds $100,000. Standard Browning High Powers today cost between $1,000 and $1,200, meaning the customization and historical significance multiply the base value by roughly 100 times. Diamond-encrusted Colt 1911 with JGL initials. El Chapo loved his custom 1911s. This particular model featured black and white diamonds spelling out his initials JGL on the grip. The black finish contrasted with the brilliant stones, creating a weapon that doubled as a personal brand statement. The platform was a 38 Super, identical in specifications to Carrillo's model. 5-inch barrel, 8.5 inches overall, 36 ounces, 9+1 capacity, 130 grain bullets at 1,300 feet per second, 50-meter effective range, standard 1911 performance wrapped in ridiculous luxury. Prosecutors presented this gun as evidence during El Chapo's 2018 United States trial. Authorities had seized it years earlier during a Sinaloa safehouse raid. The initials served as Guzman's personal brand, marking the weapon as unmistakably his. Today it resides in the Museo del Enervante as another relic of his empire. The estimated value sits north of $100,000, and it stands as one of the most photographed pieces of evidence from the entire trial. That three-letter monogram represents decades of violence, corruption, and the billions of dollars that flowed through the Sinaloa cartel. Modified commemorative Colt 1911. Rafael Caro Quintero, one of the Guadalajara cartel's founders, owned a modified World War II commemorative Colt 1911. Someone added gold panels and diamonds spelling out R1 to this historical piece. Taking a commemorative firearm and modifying it this way strikes collectors as almost sacrilegious, but Caro Quintero apparently didn't care. The base gun fired 45 ACP with standard 1911 specifications, 5-inch barrel, 8.5 inches overall, 39 ounces, 8+1, 230 grain bullets at 850 feet per second. The commemorative engravings detailed World War II battles, creating a bizarre juxtaposition with its later use by a drug lord. Costa Rican authorities seized this weapon during Caro Quintero's 1985 arrest. The Guadalajara cartel was in full operation mode when they finally caught him. The irony of a World War II commemorative piece becoming a cartel weapon isn't lost on historians who study these artifacts. The modifications likely cost an enormous sum, though exact figures remain unknown since the gun sits in evidence storage. Standard replicas run $900 to $1,200, but this piece's value stems entirely from its historical significance and outrageous modifications. Custom Colt 1911 Gold Cup Billionaire. El Chapo's ego reached peak expression with his Colt 1911 Gold Cup. An engraved plaque read Billionaire, and black diamonds formed the number 701, referencing his ranking on Forbes magazine's billionaire list in 2009. This gun wasn't just expensive, it was a statement about his perceived status in the world. Standard Gold Cup specifications apply: 45 ACP 5-inch barrel, 8.5 inches overall, 39 ounces, 8+1 capacity, 230 grain full metal jacket at 850 feet per second. The customization didn't change the ballistics, just the price tag. Mexican authorities seized this weapon during El Chapo's 2014 Mazatlan arrest, one of several times he was captured before his eventual extradition. The Forbes ranking reference dates the customization to sometime after 2009. Estimates place this gun's value at $333,000 or more, making it one of the most expensive seized handguns in history. A standard Gold Cup replica costs $900 to $1,200. The fact that Guzman spent hundreds of thousands on decorating a pistol while his organization brutalized thousands of people tells you everything about his priorities. Gold-plated Colt M4 carbine. Oscar Orlando Nava Valencia didn't do anything halfway. Authorities seized 31 luxury firearms from his property in 2010. One standout piece was a gold and silver-plated Colt M4 carbine with jewel inlays. Engravings spelled out Lobo Valencia across the weapon. This wasn't a firearm anymore. It was a sculpture that happened to shoot bullets. The M4 fires 5.56 by 45mm NATO ammunition from 30-round magazines. The barrel measures 14.5 inches. Overall length hits 29.8 inches, and the gun weighs 6.9 pounds. Each round sends a 62-grain full metal jacket bullet screaming downrange at 3,000 feet per second. The effective range extends to 400 meters, making this a serious combat weapon underneath all that decoration. Zapopan authorities raided Valencia's property during Jalisco cartel activities. The entire collection included rubies and emeralds worked into various firearms. These pieces crossed the line from weapons into art, though deadly art that could still function as intended. The complete collection's value reaches into the millions. A standard M4 carbine replica today costs between $1,000 and $1,500, emphasizing how the customization multiplied the base value exponentially. Valencia's private arsenal represented more art gallery than armory. Gold-plated Beretta 92 with Versace logo. Another El Chapo special, this Beretta 92 featured gold frame and slide with an engraved barrel. The grip sported a Versace logo rendered in diamonds. Guzman apparently enjoyed mixing Italian fashion brands with Italian firearms. We already covered Beretta 92 specs: 9mm 4.9-inch barrel, 8.5 inches overall, 34 ounces, 15+1, 124 grain at 1,200 feet per second, 50-meter effective range. The mechanics remained standard, the appearance did not. Authorities seized this in a pre-2016 raid on one of Guzman's safe houses. He owned it as a matched set with a similarly decorated AK variant, creating a handgun rifle combination for different engagement ranges. The Versace logo represents the intersection of luxury fashion and cartel culture, where brand names matter as much on weapons as on clothing. Estimated value exceeds $100,000. Standard Beretta 92s cost $600 to $800, making the customization worth roughly 100 times the base gun's price. That ratio appears consistent across most high-end cartel weapons. Gold-plated Norinco Heavy Machine 90 AK-47 variant. The matching rifle to that Versace Beretta was a Chinese-made Norinco MH90. Gold dust cover, magazine, and sights gleamed under the lights. The grip featured the same diamond Versace logo as its pistol companion. Chinese manufacturers produced these AK variants specifically for export markets, bypassing United States import restrictions on Russian AKs. Standard AK-47 specifications apply. 7.62 by 39 mm, 16.3-inch barrel, 34.3 inches overall, 7.7 pounds, 30-round magazine, 123-grain full metal jacket at 2,350 feet per second, 350-meter effective range. The Norinco functioned identically to any other AK variant despite its country of origin. This rifle came from a late raid before El Chapo's final arrest. The Norinco's origin story fascinates firearms historians. Chinese manufacturers filled the void when Russian imports faced restrictions, creating a pipeline that eventually supplied cartels. Today, this specific rifle serves as a centerpiece at the DEA Museum. The estimated value represents the highest figure for any cartel rifle seized. Standard Norinco AKs cost $800 to $1,000, again showing how customization and historical significance inflate value dramatically. Diamond-encrusted .48 caliber handgun. El Chapo owned 3 similar diamond-encrusted .38 caliber handguns, each emblazoned with his initials. These formed part of his extensive arsenal presented during his trial testimony. Prosecutors used them as evidence in discussions about his organization's bribery and bloodshed. .38 Super, 5-inch barrel, 8.5 inches overall, 36 ounces, 9+1, 130 grain at 1,300 feet per second, 50-meter effective range. Standard performance in a ridiculous package, a recurring theme in cartel weaponry. The context of these weapons matters as much as the specifications. Guzman relied on them during his reign over the Sinaloa cartel, using them for protection during meetings, escapes, and confrontations. Each pistol carries an estimated value exceeding $100,000. Replicas cost $900 to $1,200. The 3-gun set represented redundancy and preparation, ensuring Guzman always had a backup weapon regardless of circumstances. These weren't collector pieces, they were working guns that happened to cost as much as houses. Colt El Jefe, that .38 Super. Some guns transcended individual ownership to become symbols of rank. The Colt El Jefe and its companion piece El Grito served as badges of leadership within cartel hierarchies. Engraved with their respective names, these .38 Super pistols marked their owners as bosses rather than foot soldiers. Standard Colt 1911 specifications in .38 Super: 5 inches, 8.5 inches, 36 ounces, 9+1, 130 grain, at 1,300 feet per second, 50 meters. The mechanics mattered less than the message. Various operations seized these weapons over the years. They gained particular popularity within the Juarez cartel during the 1990s. Status displays during cartel meetings often featured these engraved pistols prominently displayed or worn openly. Custom versions commanded $50,000 or more. Standard replicas cost $1,000 to $1,500. The names themselves carried weight. El Jefe translates to the boss. Carrying one meant you had climbed high enough in the organization to warrant that title. Getting caught with one meant authorities knew they had someone important in custody. Colt El Grito .38 Super. The companion to El Jefe, El Grito means the shout or the scream. Another .38 Super, another status symbol, another way for cartel leaders to announce their importance without saying a word. The specifications matched El Jefe exactly, because that consistency mattered. These weren't custom one-offs. They were a recognized category of leadership firearms. 5-inch barrel, 8.5 inches overall, 36 ounces, 9+1 capacity, 130 grain full metal jacket at 1,300 feet per second, 50-meter effective range, the same performance as any other .38 Super 1911. Cartel meetings saw these pistols displayed alongside El Jefe models, creating a visual hierarchy. Seized during various operations, they proved popular enough that multiple cartel organizations adopted similar practices. Estimated value hits $50,000 or more for custom examples. Standard versions cost $1,000 to $1,500. The pairing of El Jefe and El Grito represented a complete leadership team, with the boss and his lieutenant both armed with appropriately engraved weapons. Modern law enforcement trained to recognize these specific pieces as indicators of high-value targets. Barrett M82. Nemesio El Mencho Oseguera. Cervantes didn't mess around with pistols when he needed real firepower. His organization used a Barrett M82 rifle for anti-aircraft purposes. This military-grade weapon proved its worth in 2015 when cartel forces used it to down a Mexican police helicopter during an evasion attempt in Jalisco. The Barrett M82 cartridge represents the upper limit of man-portable firepower. 750-grain full-metal jacket bullets scream down range at 2,900 feet per second. The barrel measures 29 inches, overall length hits 45 inches, and the complete weapon weighs 30 pounds. 10-round magazines feed this beast. The effective range extends to 1,800 meters, making it capable of engaging targets well over a mile away. That 2015 helicopter shootdown marked a turning point in Mexican cartel violence. Successfully engaging aircraft demonstrated a level of capability that shocked authorities. Investigators traced the weapon back to a United States manufacturer, fueling ongoing debates about arms trafficking and the migration crisis. The rifle's estimated value sits around $10,000. Commercial replicas cost $8,000 to $12,000. The fact that cartels possessed and effectively employed anti-aircraft weapons fundamentally changed how Mexican authorities approached operations in cartel-controlled territories. You can't just fly overhead anymore, when the people below have guns designed to punch through light armor at extreme distances. Gold-plated Zastava AK-47. Pablo Escobar's personal bunker yielded a gold-plated Zastava AK-47. The Yugoslav-manufactured rifle represented a more understated approach than many cartel weapons, at least by Escobar standards. The gold plating covered the standard Zastava platform without excessive additional ornamentation. 7.62 by 39 mm, 16.3-inch barrel, 34.3 inches overall, 7.7 pounds, 30-round magazine, 123 grain at 2,350 feet per second, 350-meter effective range. The Zastava functioned identically to Russian-made AKs despite its Serbian origin. The Medellin cartel's enforcers used similar rifles during urban warfare operations throughout Colombia. This specific piece came from Escobar's personal bunker, suggesting it held special significance or served as a last resort weapon. The estimated value exceeds $200,000 based on provenance and customization. Standard Zastava AKs cost $800 to $1,000. The understated nature of this particular piece fascinates collectors because Escobar had the resources for much more elaborate customization. Either he valued function over flash for this specific weapon, or it represented an earlier period before his tastes turned more extravagant. Browning 9mm pistol and Colt MK.45 pistol. Pablo Escobar's associate El Mexicano, identified as Rodriguez Gacha, owned a Browning 9mm pistol and a Colt MK.45 that reflected surprising restraint. These standard cartel-modified weapons lacked the extreme customization seen in other high-ranking members' arsenals. The Browning high-power specifications we covered earlier. 9mm 4.7 inches, 7.75 inches, 32 ounces, 13 plus 1. 124 grain at 1,150 feet per second, 50 meters. The Colt fired 45 ACP with standard specs. 5 inches, 8.5 inches, 39 ounces, 8 plus 1. 230 grain at 850 feet per second. Medellin enforcer seizures included these weapons during multiple operations. They now sit in a Bogotá police museum as reminders of the cartel's operational period. The lack of extreme customization on these particular pieces suggests they functioned as working weapons rather than status symbols. Not every cartel gun received the full luxury treatment. Sometimes a reliable pistol mattered more than a bejeweled one. These weapons represented the working end of the organization rather than its public face. They killed just as effectively as the gold-plated versions, but nobody would mistake them for art. Emerald inlaid Colt Combat Commander. Amado Carrillo Fuentes owned another custom Colt beyond his ACF engraved piece. This Combat Commander featured emerald inlays and monogramming. The compact frame made it easier to conceal than full-size 1911s while maintaining significant firepower. 45 ACP, 4.25-inch barrel, 7.75 inches overall, 33 ounces, 8 plus 1 capacity, 230 grain full metal jacket at 850 feet per second, 50-meter effective range. The slightly shorter barrel and reduced length made this a better concealed carry option. Carrillo popularized this style during the 1990s in Juarez. Cartel asset raids eventually seized it among his possessions. The emerald inlays became something of a signature for Carrillo's personal weapons. This piece influenced trends in cartel pistol customization, with later generations copying the emerald aesthetic. Estimated value exceeds $100,000. Standard combat commanders cost $1,000 to $1,300. The Lord of the Skies understood that weapons could serve as fashion statements while remaining functional. This balanced approach influenced how other cartel leaders viewed their arsenals. The pattern across all these weapons reveals something fascinating about cartel psychology. These men turned instruments of violence into status symbols, museums pieces, and personal brands. They spent hundreds of thousands on customization that added zero functional value. A gold-plated AK shoots exactly the same as a standard one. Diamonds on a grip don't make bullets fly straighter. But that wasn't the point. The point was showing everyone that they could afford to turn weapons into jewelry. The point was intimidation through excess. The point was creating artifacts that would outlive them, ensuring their names stayed attached to these outrageous pieces of functional art. Every one of these guns started as a standard military or civilian firearm. American manufacturers produced most of them. Legal purchases transformed into cartel arsenals through various trafficking routes. The United States traced over 185,000 guns to Mexican cartels between 2015 and 2023. These luxury pieces represent a tiny fraction of that total, but they capture something essential about cartel culture. Violence and vanity intertwined so completely that separating them became impossible. If you enjoyed this video, click that subscribe button and I would see you in the next video.